Already I've issued a 6-month moratorium on deepwater drilling. I know this creates difficulty for the people who work on these rigs, but for the sake of their safety and for the sake of the entire region, we need to know the facts before we allow deepwater drilling to continue.
Curtis, what does the president's ban on deep water really mean?
It means a lot of things at a lot of different levels. Let's try to start with some simple things. I have watched this administration take steps that I have viewed as just incredible in a negative impact to the economy and to the citizenry of the country. And every time I've seen them do something, I've thought, how could you make a worse misstep than the last one? Here's effectively what he's done, Richard. It's the equivalent of when the space shuttle burned its wings off and we lost those astronauts, the government coming out and saying, okay, well, the space shuttle had wings and it was a high-tech endeavor, so since it had wings, we're going to ground every airplane that has wings until we really understand what happened.
Well, Curtis, I understand your point on the space shuttle, but the space shuttle's crash didn't come along with one of the largest environmental disasters on record.
Nobody undermines the environmental impact. That's not the point. The point is the response out of government has been totally misguided, in my opinion, as a deep water expert, in dealing with the issue that they had. There are any one of a number of things that could have been done differently by government, by industry even, to deal with the leak. If you're going to put thousands of people out of work, if you are going to idle entire rig fleets, you owe it to those folks to at least have a plan. I would argue you even owe it to the 11 people that died out there to have something more than a half-baked, knee-jerk reaction that won't accomplish anything. I believe the industry has its arms around proper ways to handle and operate hydrocarbons in relatively shallow water, which by any definition other than the Obama administration, 500 feet would qualify for. But what you're going to have as a result of this reaction is thousands of job losses. You are shutting down, you've got a 30% annual decline in the Gulf of Mexico. And you're shutting down, for all intent and purpose, all the drilling in that area at a time when you need every ounce of oil and gas you can get. And with a 30% decline rate, when you finally get around to lifting this ban a year from now, you're going to have 30% less production. What's that going to do to hydrocarbon prices?
Do you think that we should be looking more closely at certification and processes for deep water wells?
I don't. There's no question that you have different issues in deep water than you have in shallow water. And to me, that's the most damning thing about what this administration has done, is they've lumped, if it has wings, we're going to put it on the ground. Is what you do in 5,000 feet of water, in 10,000 feet of water, something that should be reviewed based on what's happened out there? I would argue, based on what at least I've been told, and I don't pretend to be an expert about what's going on with BP's well, that there are some unique upset conditions that have occurred there that aren't the norm. But I would also say that it's reasonable, it's measured, it's logical that you would have a blue ribbon panel of people who know what they're looking at to take a look at deep water operations. And I differentiate that blue ribbon panel from a couple of guys that have an axe to grind, that one is a Democrat and one is a Republican, with the industry in delivering any kind of measured, rational, reasonable response to what's going on.
Curtis, you've been in deep water for years. What is deep water today?
Deep today, as evidenced by some of the issues that are going on with the BP well, is the 5 to 10,000 foot range. If you had this same blowout in 4,999 feet, do you have similar problems? Sure. But when you're talking about conceptually where that demarcation line is, it's probably at least 5,000 feet. I would even be willing to say it might go back as shallow as 2,500 feet. But again, even out to the 2,500 foot level, we have a long history of successfully, safely operating in those water depths. So I think there's a discussion to be had about where that is. It certainly is not 500 feet.
500 feet today is just equivalent to onshore production, is it not?
In many ways, yes, because you're not dealing with the extreme situation that you get into in 5,000 feet of water for a variety of reasons. You're not dealing with the same kinds of pressures. You're not dealing with the same kinds of transit times. You're not dealing with the same kind of handling logistics. There are just a whole host of things that we quantified back in the DeepStar days to actually have that discussion. And it's the most damning thing that I can think of that you don't have a single industry technical expert involved in this process. What you have are bureaucrats and government people who have no experience, who are going to legislate. And you've used the term Sarbanes-Oxley. I can't think of anything that more adequately addresses where we're headed here, because you're going to have people that don't know what they're talking about legislating on things that they don't understand, and what you're going to do to this industry potentially is the same things that Sarbanes-Oxley did to IPOs in the U.S. It's killed an entire industry.